Good morning, or afternoon, or evening, or whatever time of day it may be, wherever you may be joining us. Thanks so much for tuning in. I want to say thank you to Jordan and to Richard for their help in getting things together to make this video as well as the accompanying PDF possible. Today I want to talk to you just for a minute about the idea of ornaments. I've got a couple here in my hand. This first one, it's a moose. It's a little wooden moose that I got in Alaska. My mom actually got it for me. Our family, my parents and my brother and I went to Alaska in the year 2010. It's about 12 years ago. When I see this ornament, I don't just see a wooden moose. Most people, that's the value. It's just a cute little moose. But for me, I see a whitewater rafting trip down a frigid, cold river that's fed from glacier runoff. I see a salmon run that we got to see. I see pancakes bigger than the plate because everything is truly bigger in Alaska. Sorry, Texas. If Alaska actually were cut in half, then Texas would be the third largest state in the union, apparently, according to all the Alaskans up there. There's just a flood of memories. There's a whole album or 10, of memories that are in my mind. When I look at this ornament every year it goes on the tree, I go right back to those places. And sometimes, I don't know if you have memories associated with decorations, especially during the holidays like I do. This is another one. This is not from Alaska. This is one that one of our children did, and it has their handprint on the bottom, and then 5 little tiny snowmen. Every time we go to decorate our tree, which we love, and this year was one of the best trees we've ever had. Picked it up by myself, so I'm a little partial to it, but every time we start decorating the tree, we have all of these ornaments. A lot of them are homemade. Some of them are just from different time periods and stuff. And so this one in particular is special because obviously one of our children made it. And we pull it out and we look and see how tiny their hand was. And we'll look at the year. And for years down the road, we'll probably say, oh yeah, your teacher was Miss So-and-so. And who was in your class that year? Do you remember anything special about it? And you kind of get to relive some of those moments. They're good reminders of wonderful times, of fun times. And that's kind of what an ornament is. It's not just simply decoration, but it's something to point to a memory or to a place, to a sight or a smell. Different memories, especially during the holidays, are very precious to us and very deeply tied to our hearts. This is something that we see in the Bible as well, that sentimental things are one thing. It's not just to have a nice memory, but God says that visual reminders are important, especially when they point to Him. And so He used that. In Deuteronomy 6, a passage that may be familiar to many of us, we read here, Hear, O Israel, in verse 4, The Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, and with all of your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. God says that these events, these things that happen, these reminders of God's faithfulness, they need to be front and center. They need to be on full display. They need to be the Christmas tree sitting in the middle of your house that nobody can help but notice. And specifically, there's a reason for that, because not just do they point back for you to have the reminders, but there's another direction. Look, skip with me down in verse 20. When your son asks you in time to come, what is the meaning of the testimonies and the statutes and the rules that the Lord our God has commanded you? Then you shall say to your son, We were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, and the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. The Lord showed signs and wonders great and grievous against Egypt and against Pharaoh and all the household before our eyes. And He brought us out from there, that He might bring us in and give us the land that He swore to give our fathers. So you see, visual reminders are very, very important to God. They're important to God. We see in Joshua chapter 4 as well, where there's a monument, an altar of 12 stones that were made to remind the children of Israel that were there, as well as future generations, that this is the moment, that this was the place where God parted the Jordan and they walked across. So many times in Scripture we see different altars or monuments. We see different moments that are captured for future generations, so that when they see those things and they ask the question, what is this? Well, then the older generation can say, this is a reminder of God's faithfulness. This holiday season, as you're unpacking, putting up, and soon to be taking down some of these ornaments and reliving some of these memories, I want you to look around your house and to see where we can put some visual reminders of what God has done for us. It may be a photograph, or it may be something that shows a verse that was very important that got us through a difficult time. It may be some other form of a memento that reminds us of a person that perhaps taught us the gospel something that could be a visual reminder so that when people walk into our homes and when future generations come over, they say, well, what is that supposed to mean? We can say, well, that's a reminder of what God did. Let me tell you what He did for me in my life. Take a moment to read the passage you see here on the screen and to discuss with those that are in your household or to think and ponder for yourself. Feel free to pause the video here and we'll move on to our next session. Holidays are full of different traditions, and that's what makes them so special oftentimes, is being able to pass a tradition down from one generation to the next generation to the next generation, and to enjoy some of those special times together. I think it's possible and probably likely that you know someone this year that will have a new tradition at their holiday gathering, and not because they chose to, but because of loss of life or loss of a relationship or some other type of separation. And I think it's very important for us to take time to remember those, that the holidays may be a bittersweet time or just a bitter time, maybe a difficult time. In just a few moments, we're going to read a psalm, Psalm 136, and I want you to read that out loud in your home, whether you're by yourself or you're with a group of people. There's a phrase there for His steadfast love endures forever. And it's repeated in every single one of the verses in Psalm 136. I think there's something very powerful about reading this out loud, something very powerful about thinking on the idea that God's steadfast love endures forever. Through difficulties, through tragedies, through wonderful celebrations, His steadfast love will endure forever. And specifically, if you are someone that is feeling the pain and the grief of loss or just feeling down this holiday, I want you specifically to take this exercise and to write down the names of 3 other people, at least 3 other folks, that you think might be hurting, that you think you can empathize with, that may be feeling the same things you are, and commit to sending a text message or a phone call or a good old-fashioned letter to reach out to them and to remind them that they indeed are not alone and that God's steadfast love surely does endure forever. I firmly believe that it will be an encouragement to you that you didn't see coming and that they absolutely will benefit from as well. So let's think of each other and let's take these next few moments to think through, to listen to God's Word, and then to think through who we can remind of God's steadfast love. Well, I want to thank you again for joining us today, and we're going to close here in just a moment. As we end 2022, and kind of crazy to think that it's 2022 already, and it's already come to a close, and we're on the eve of 2023, I want us to think back, maybe even go through your phone and through your picture scroll there, your camera roll, and see just the different things that happened over the course of the last year. It's always good to reflect. Think about the people, think about the events that occurred, and try to identify ways where God continued to transform you spiritually. Not just something that happened physically, we got a new house, got a new car, but what happened eternally? What happened What happened inside your heart? What change occurred there that caused you to grow more like Christ? And then as we look to 2023, take a few moments and jot down what are some spiritual goals that you have. A lot of times we write down things like, I want to read through the whole New Testament, or I want to read through the whole Bible in a year. And those are very good, noble goals to have. But if we read for information instead of reading for transformation, then we're actually missing the point. The Bible is not read just to be consumed. It's read so that we will be transformed. And so what are your spiritual goals this year? If it is something to read a certain amount of verses or passages or a certain part of the Bible in a certain amount of time, that's good. But with that, what are the other goals? Is it to be more prayerful every day, to create a better habit or a better response to life where your first thought is not fear or something like that, but it's actually to pray, and it's to humble yourself before the throne of God? Is it to have a goal of every week trying to find one new person to take out to lunch or to do something spiritually beneficial for? Is it to have a certain number of Bible studies with people? What are the spiritual goals that we need to be putting into our lives and striving for day after day, week after week, and year after year? As long as God sees fit to give us life, we're going to use it for Him. Again, I want to thank you so much for being with us. Thank you again, Richard and Jordan, for their help as well in putting all this together. And I hope that this last time together will give you some good goals to strive for moving forward. And I do believe that 2023 may be the most powerful year yet for the Madison Church of Christ. Thanks again for joining us. Have a great day.